Today we're going to be taking a break from wood turning and we're going to be doing this how-to video. We're going to be building an Alaskan sawmill, and basically this is a fixture that clamps up to your chainsaw and allows you to slab out or make boards out of longer logs. This is a build I've been wanting to do for a little while now because it'll give me the ability to cut my own boards, dry them, then finish them, and then I'll be able to in turn use those to make segmented pieces, which will be a lot cheaper and just kind of a lot cooler than just going to the store and buying them. Some of the exotic woods I'll still obviously have to buy, but for a lot of like the maple and the cherry and those kind of pieces, I'll just be able to do it all myself now, which will be pretty cool. So gone ahead and drawn up my plans here. This is actually going to fit on this chainsaw and my smaller chainsaw, and we'll explain that a little bit as we go. Yeah, everything's drawn up and measured. So we'll go ahead and start measuring out pieces and getting them cut, and we'll kind of talk about the different components of this fixture as we go through and build them. So the first component of this that we're going to build is going to be these two down supports. Now these are what actually clamp onto your chainsaw bar. So we're going to have two pieces of metal with two pieces in between that will bolt on here and here, and then the rod coming up, which is going to mount to the long part that'll keep our saw stabilized. So we're going to go ahead and measure out. This is a 3-foot piece and we want 1.5 feet down. So we'll go ahead and just divide this in half, mark it at 18 inches, and then for our two clamps we are going to need 4 7-inch sections. So that'll be what we need to get out of our square stock. And then in order to prevent these clamp bars from touching the chain, what we're going to do is put these little spacers in and weld those to the inside so we have some room to where we're not clamping down on our blade itself. So we've measured those out, and those need to be 1.25 inches each, and that'll give us enough room in between to not be rubbing. So we've got these all measured out. We're going to need 4 of these to match the 4 of these. Gone ahead and measured everything out. I'm going to fire up the air compressor and we'll get those cut with the cutoff wheel, and then we'll go ahead and drill some holes and weld them up. So now that everything is cut and cleaned up, we're going to go ahead and work on our 2 clamping bars. So what we're going to do is measure in 1/2 inch and get a punch to center this up, and we're going to have to drill 2 holes in each one of these so that our bolts can go through that are going to be the actual like force that clamps these together. So we'll get these measured up 1/2 inch in. And then this is a 3/4 inch square piece, I believe, so we will just divide that by 2, which will put us right there. Now what we're gonna do is put these in the clamp together, in our vise, so that when we drill these holes, we're just gonna drill right through both of these, and that way our holes are gonna be perfectly aligned, which is gonna be pretty critical, because if one hole is slightly off, then when we try and tighten this down, it's gonna bind or do something weird. So we'll go ahead and make sure these are matched up. So we've got our 2 bars clamped up in the vise. I'm gonna open these up with a number 30 drill bit just to kind of get a pilot hole going, and then we'll open them up all the way with a 5/16 bit. So I've just gone and cleaned out all the burrs on the hole with this deburring tool. So now what we'll do is go ahead and line these back up. And put our bolts through. We're going to put 2 nuts on this and snug this up so that everything stays nice and lined up. And then when we move on to the welding phase, we'll go ahead and just weld these bolt heads to the bottom of this so that we won't need a wrench on the back anytime we want to tighten this down. So we've got these 2 pieces together and our bolts are going through fine. So we're going to go ahead and tack these into place right now. And we're just going to tack them because I don't want to get this too hot, because we've got to put some other stuff on it and then we'll just finish weld everything at once. Plus another thing, we want to make sure that these are perfectly straight once we tack them, and that this will actually pull off fine. So it'll be a lot easier to break that bolt off if something isn't quite right with it only tacked. Alright, so everything's lined up good. This comes out nicely. So now what we're going to do is put our 2 clamping points on. And what we're going to need to do is measure out the middle of this, which will be 3.5 inches. And I've gone ahead and found the center of one of our little clamp blocks. So we're going to go ahead and just get this lined up here. And we're going to go ahead and just put a tack on that. So now what we will do is reinstall this piece. And we'll take our other clamp block, just place it on top there. And we'll put a tack on that. So now what we're going to do is this piece that does not have our bolts running through it, we're going to flip this around. Recenter this real quick. Then we're going to attach our upright to this. So make sure our lines line up. We will make sure we are sitting nice and flush. We'll go ahead and tack this in place also. So now the only thing left we need to do is just go ahead and finish weld all of these up. For the next segment of this build, we're going to go ahead and work on the top part, which is going to be what actually rides across the log and kind of supports the saw and keeps everything nice and level. So basically we're just going to build a rectangular frame for this. The sides are going to be this 3/4 inch angle iron, and then on the two pieces that are going to go in between these, we've got a piece of 1.25 inch angle iron, and we're using a bigger piece for this because this is going to be where our T-bar clamps actually mount to. So we want a little bit bigger of a surface area for when we bolt those in. So I've gone ahead and measured my chainsaw, and the length I want for this is going to be 22 inches. So gone ahead and measured up 22 inches on both of these. And then for our in-between parts, we're gonna make this thing about a foot, which will be pretty good. It'll give us a nice straight cut. So we'll go ahead and measure this up. We're gonna need 3 sections of this at a foot each, because we're actually gonna have 2 different mount points so I can put both of my chainsaws on it. So we'll measure this up and then we'll cut these and get them tacked. So we've got our frame all measured out and cut. This piece for the small chainsaw, it's going to go 14 inches from the end here. On this one I did have to kind of notch it out so that it's going to fit in here properly. So I'm just going to go ahead and tack each corner and use the magnet to square everything up as we go, and then we'll make sure we're square and everything is nice and smooth before we go ahead and finish weld. So before we go ahead and finish weld our frame, we need to just finish the last little component for this. And this is going to be the piece that clamps our T-bar clamps to this fixture. So the store didn't have any 1-inch square stock. So what I did was took some flat stock and made 3 little U things. And what this is think of this as the T-bar clamp. It's gonna slide in there, and then we're gonna drill a hole and weld this nut on, and that is going to keep pressure on that and keep our uprights adjusted. So we've got our upper clamps made, and I've gone ahead and lifted this up a little bit so I could get the T-bar clamps in and have these set in place and squared up, and I'm kind of using these to gauge if I'm perpendicular. So we've got those set up, so we're going to go ahead and tack these into place. Then we'll just pull one of these out and repeat over here on our last one. And then we'll go ahead and finish weld everything up, and then we'll get this all painted up and test it out. So here is our sawmill all hooked up to the saw. You can see we've got the 2 T-bar clamps that clamp right onto the bar of the chainsaw there, and our blade does not interfere with it. And then up off of those is our frame. I went ahead and just leveled this with a 2x4. I already made the first cut since that is the hardest. I took a 2x4 and screwed it to the top so I had something level to go off of. So I got that first cut done, so now we'll go ahead and try it out on just a log without a 2x4 or anything supporting it and see how it does. doing that first cut, noticed a slight little design flaw, but it was pretty easy to fix. When I got towards the end of the cut, it was only being supported by this back bar, so it had a tendency to kind of drop off and make the log a little fatter. So all I needed to do was just add a little support right here in the middle, so that way when it's riding across the log, it'll be riding on that and not just only have one point of contact. So pretty easy fix. Other than that, I am really happy with this sawmill. I'm gonna hook it up to the big chainsaw now and finish cutting up that log and see what we end up with.